If you were to list the most common ways an NBA career gets destroyed, first is definitely injuries. Second is probably some off-court behavior that ruins their reputation. But how often do you witness a player's career get ruined by a single teammate? A guy who is supposed to be supporting you and helping you get better. In this video, let's take a look at 5 NBA players who saw their careers get eradicated because of a teammate.
With the event yesterday, with the video leaking, huge embarrassment that comes with that.
Kwame Brown. The 2001 NBA draft made history. When Kwame Brown got selected with the #1 overall pick, he became the first high schooler in history to be drafted at #1. And who was the guy who drafted him? It was none other than Michael Jordan. At the time, he was the director of the Washington Wizards and saw Kwame as the potential future face of the franchise.
MJ can't be pleased with his squad's performance.
Can I possibly come back and play at a level of basketball that I left again?
A few months later, Jordan announced he'd be returning to play basketball once again, citing his competitive urge and his desire to play with the young players up close. Specifically, he saw an opportunity to mentor the young Kwame. Jordan believed his ceiling was astronomical and he had the potential to take over the league in a few years. Initially, he had hoped he could help Kwame reach his full potential, as stated by a Wizard staff member. Quote, "When he got to camp, it was like Kwame already had the credentials in Michael's eyes to be a part of Michael's group. So Michael let him in, for a while, at least." While the rest of the world anticipated Jordan's comeback, the spotlight was always on him, but in the background, the relationship between him and the team's newest draft prospect was quite shaky right from the start. Reportedly, there were so many negative things Jordan said about Kwame, some of which were well over the line. Jordan got personal, although his comments were not out of nowhere. In an old article by Michael Leahy of ESPN, he stated Kwame was very cocky, even challenging Jordan himself, doubting his abilities to still play at a high level, to which MJ did not appreciate. He joined the Wizards to play with a high-character, hard-working center with the motivation to become the best he can be. Instead, he got a lazy, disrespectful, talentless slacker who only cared about collecting his paycheck. Hilariously, Jordan also noticed something unusual about Kwame, in particular, how small his hands were.
Oh, Michael's got it. Michael lead pass. Stackhouse rolls on Carter. Cut back, nailed by Kwame.
In his mind, it finally clicked why Kwame was so bad at catching passes. It seemed like he dropped the ball so many times like he had butterfingers. But in reality, he could barely even palm the ball, which is honestly pathetic for a 7-footer. And Jordan made fun of him for that. While it's easy to put the blame on Kwame for lacking the work ethic to succeed, this might be the worst environment he could have been drafted to. A small piece of his confidence was being shattered every single day, and there's only so much a 19-year-old teenager can handle before breaking down. Kwame did not improve as the Wizards had hoped, no surprise there, and a few years later, he got traded to the Lakers. And now, instead of playing with Jordan, he gets to play with Kobe, which wasn't much better. If there was a player that was almost identical to Jordan in terms of personality and high standards, it has to be Kobe. Over time, Kwame felt less and less invested into the sport, and he felt unfairly blamed, even when he's still trying to grow as a person. There's no doubt Michael was too harsh with how he treated him, and even with all of Kwame's flaws, you could claim he was set up to fail right from the start. Still, he managed a decade-long career, which is actually quite good for a player who everyone considers as a huge bust. Javaris Crittenton. Is it a coincidence this is another former Wizards player? Maybe not. In this notorious locker room incident, Gilbert Arenas pulled out a gun. The player he confronted was Javaris Crittenton.
What I was doing was purposely to irritate Javaris. That's what I do. So you can just see him just fuming.
Now, when folks look back at this encounter, it's usually only told from Arenas' side of the story. He was the franchise player of the Wizards who got suspended and eventually traded away. Yet he already accomplished so much in his career before that, and made tons of money before and after the incident. In fact, Arenas was the one to blame for this, yet he still rejoined the Wizards after his suspension was over. The same fortune did not apply to Crittenton. His career ended before it even began. By that, I mean he was only 21 years old when his NBA career concluded. What happened was he brought a loaded gun into the locker room, and unlike Arenas, Crittenton got released by the Wizards and never played in the NBA ever again. Now, bear in mind, he was a first-round draft pick, and it was only his second year in the league. Yet, with the snap of a finger, that single moment in the locker room destroyed his career. Now, one could point the blame strictly on Crittenton himself. I mean, he was the one who brought a loaded gun with him, right? Except, if you know Gilbert Arenas, he's quite the instigator, and he was even more so back in his day. This whole situation stemmed from a simple card game on the plane, with money involved. Arenas was basically rage-baiting the entire time. He jokingly threatened Crittenton by saying he'll burn him alive if he doesn't pay up. Crittenton wasn't having it and fired back by threatening to shoot Arenas. Arenas tried to call his bluff by bringing several guns into the locker room and allowed Crittenton to select which one he wants to use, to which Crittenton pulled out his own loaded gun. In an interview shortly after, this is how he tried to justify it. Quote, "They said, don't get caught up in Gilbert Arenas' antics, but he made his threats to my life. You keep talking about fighting, I play with guns." This locker room incident is forever linked to Javaris Crittenton's image, and he got blackballed from other teams because of it. Nobody wants to take a chance with a player like him, so nobody else gave him another offer. A year later, he was charged with murder. I guess those teams were right to be wary of him. Nikola Mirotic. On October 17, 2017, what seemed like a routine Chicago Bulls practice turned into a crisis. Tensions arose when an argument broke out between Mirotic and Bobby Portis. Reportedly, they traded blows, but it was Mirotic who got the worst of it. Porter punched him in the face, and Mirotic got a concussion and several fractures in his face. He even had to be hospitalized. For Portis, not only did the Bulls suspend him for 8 games, but this incident tarnished his reputation, and he became labeled as a hothead, a troublemaker. For Mirotic, however, this lone incident changed his career forever. He was previously a very valuable role player for Chicago, and he even led the team in scoring at the beginning of the year. But due to all of this, the Bulls' locker room never recovered. In fact, Mirotic missed the first month and a half of the season with a fractured face, and the friction and strain it caused on the organization ultimately led to the Bulls trading him away. This was obviously not in their plans, because they literally just re-signed Mirotic over the summer to an extension. He was leading the team in scoring when the Bulls traded him at the deadline. Mirotic got traded to the Pelicans, and a year after that, at the age of 28, he left the NBA to play for Barcelona. Notice how I didn't say he fell out of the NBA, because he didn't. Mirotic was clearly still talented enough to get several offers from other NBA teams, but he chose to play in Barcelona instead. It was a decision that caught the NBA world by storm, because so many teams, especially contenders, wanted to add him to their roster. But for him, his priorities were different. He wanted to be closer to family, and he never felt America was home. While he eventually moved on from the Portis situation and accepted his apology, this is one of those things that ignited his decision to move back to Europe. When asked about his decision to leave, he stated, "If I don't enjoy it, I don't have that emotion, that desire to be better day by day. In the end, it doesn't matter what money they give me if I'm not happy. If I don't get up every day wanting to go to practice, it's not worth it." While he did not directly blame Portis, it was obvious Mirotic did not enjoy playing in the NBA anymore after what happened. Perhaps he would have eventually moved back to Europe anyway, but this moment certainly accelerated his plans. Jordan Poole.
I was wrong for my actions that took place on Wednesday. I have apologized to my team. I have apologized to Jordan. His family saw that video. And so for that, I apologize to his mother and his father.
It's tough to say that Jordan Poole's career got ruined by Draymond Green, but you could say the trajectory of his career went in the opposite direction, and he could have been in a much better situation had this situation not happened. The leaked footage of Draymond Green throwing an absolute hammer to Poole's face became the storyline of the entire season. In a year when the Warriors just won the championship and hoped to run it back with the same squad, this single moment created a level of discord in the locker room unseen in this era of Golden State. For a franchise that emphasized camaraderie and teamwork, the 2022-23 season became the most dysfunctional locker room in a long time. The dark cloud of this footage loomed over their season, with reporters wondering, asking them questions if they reconciled. It turns out they did not. Now, let's rewind a bit. Prior to getting clapped by Draymond, Poole's NBA trajectory was actually insane. He was arguably the worst player in the league in his rookie season, but by his third year, he improved so much that he became the team's second or third best player during their run to the championship. Not just that, but he was young, very young. He was 22 years old when the Warriors won the 2022 title, and from the looks of it, it seemed like he was the most important young piece of the future of this franchise. That quickly changed. After a tumultuous season that saw the Warriors underperform, Poole was traded away over the summer. I mean, on paper, this wasn't a good trade at all for the Warriors. Chris Paul was a shell of his former self, and he left after one season, and they literally did not get anything else in return for Poole, which indicates they just wanted to get rid of him by any means possible. They actually had to attach a first-round pick to get rid of him. Poole basically went from a rising young star, a key cog who was supposed to usher in a new era of Warriors basketball, to the tank commander for the Wizards, putting up the most empty stats ever for a horrendous franchise. All because of this altercation with Draymond Green. Vernon Maxwell. What do you know about Vernon Maxwell? Well, back in the 1990s, he was considered a core member of the Houston Rockets, the starting shooting guard and the glue guy who provided all the intangibles the team needed to elevate themselves into championship contenders.
Back out to Vernon. Vernon puts up a three. Yes! Vernon Maxwell hits a three-pointer.
In 1994, he helped the Rockets win their first title in franchise history. Anticipating to defend their championship, the Rockets unfortunately saw a slew of injuries the following year, which severely hindered any chance they had to repeat. So, out of desperation, they pulled the trigger on a risky trade to acquire Clyde Drexler, essentially breaking up their championship roster for a shot in the dark.
Clyde, did you feel a bit rejected because some of the guys were vocal and publicly upset?
There were a couple of guys that were undecided about the trade and had questions about it.
It was a trade that some members in the Rockets' locker room were not fans of, in particular, Vernon Maxwell, who played the same position as Drexler and saw his minutes immediately decrease. For a while, the latter half of the Rocket season was marred by locker room drama. It was more of, a one-way drama, as Maxwell was the only one pissed off. He even got suspended due to another altercation, as he watched from the sidelines as Drexler seamlessly fit into the team. While Drexler didn't really do anything wrong, his mere existence triggered Maxwell to the point where he was ready to quit on the team. And that's exactly what he did. In the first game of the 1995 playoffs, Maxwell played just 16 minutes and recorded 3 points on 1 for 7 shooting. The funny part about this game was Rudy Tomjanovich actually gave Maxwell a chance to hit the game-winning shot. The Rockets were down by 2, and he drew up a play for Maxwell to take the last shot. The problem was, he had not played the entire fourth quarter, so he was ice cold. Then, when he missed the shot, he felt like Tomjanovich set him up to fail. After such an embarrassing, abysmal performance, he left the team and did not return. The Rockets officially released him. Maxwell watched from the comfort of his own house, as Drexler and Hakeem led the Rockets to another championship. For Maxwell, after leaving Houston, he bounced around a few teams, but he never found another home. Many years after retirement, Maxwell regrets leaving the team in this manner, more so because of money, as he claimed, quote, "I was getting ready to get paid, a nice damn big nice contract. And back then, $25 million, it was a big deal back then. All I had to do was sit on my ass over there behind Clyde Drexler." But because he prematurely abandoned his team, he never got the contract he wanted. In fact, $25 million would have been twice as much as his entire career earnings. So not only did his career spiral out of control, but he also missed out on a massive, massive payday. Perhaps you can say Drexler did not purposely ruin his career, but he indirectly did by getting traded to Houston and taking Maxwell's role and his pride along with it. Anyway, those were 5 NBA players whose careers got ruined by a single teammate. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Can you think of any other players who might fit this criteria? Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your feedback in the comments. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.